Hi, I'm Kurt, and this is an audio program for Illuminati Secrets for Acquiring Wealth. If you've heard about the Illuminati, you know that their leaders have great wealth. You may wonder how they got all this wealth. Normally, they never reveal their secrets for obtaining such great wealth. I know that many people feel jealous of these wealthy persons. Many wish that they knew their secrets for wealth. Well, I'm going to reveal those secrets to you now. But first I'll tell you a bit of my own story. Growing up, I had a number of older relatives in Luciferian secret societies. They wanted to recruit me into the Illuminati when I was a young man. I rejected recruitment, but I was exposed to some insider information about how the Illuminati works. All this was back in the 60s and early 70s when virtually nobody talked about the Illuminati. It wasn't considered a conspiracy theory back then because the Illuminati was still invisible to the public. There was no point in talking to outsiders about it because nobody would believe you anyway. Decades went by and I said nothing. However, in 2009, all of that changed. Along with some other people, I helped to start a radio program called Thought Crime Radio. By 2011, I was occasionally talking on the air, and I began to talk about the Illuminati. Of course, I was quickly labeled a conspiracy theorist, although I was mostly talking from personal experience. I got a great deal of negative feedback from people at the radio station. So I stopped doing the radio program, but I continued to post articles on the website, thoughtcrimeradio.net. After I left the radio program, I was privately contacted by some Illuminati insiders. They had heard my radio broadcasts and they gave me more information. As well as my postings on the website, I put out a video on YouTube talking about the Illuminati doctrine. And I also put out an internet article on PDF talking about a technique developed by scientists for deprogramming Illuminati mind control. I call this technique Fabian therapy. I point this all out because my knowledge of the Illuminati comes from personal experience, years of research, as well as insider sources. So I think I can speak with a certain authority. Also, even if you're already aware of the Illuminati, I may be able to give you some new insights. The Illuminati are the real reason that the wealthiest 1% of society are so much more wealthy than the rest of us. If you've ever wondered how they get their wealth, you should listen on. I'm not saying that you should use these techniques, I'm just saying that this is how it's done. I'm a Christian and the Illuminati are Luciferians, so I don't use their methods. But I'm willing to explain their methods to you. However, before I reveal to you the Illuminati's secrets for becoming super wealthy, you'll have to listen to this prayer. Yahweh, Christ Yeshua, Blessed Mary, Queen of the Angels, please send an angel from the order of the Archangel Michael to all who hear this prayer. May there also be a holy angelic presence in the east, in the south, in the west, and in the north. May all demonic influences be banished from this space. May the Spirit of Truth come to all who hear this prayer. May the Illuminati cloak of invisibility be torn asunder. May all who hear these words be liberated. May God bless this angelic presence. May God bless all who have heard this prayer. Amen. So first of all, the Illuminati is an economic system. At one time, wealth was more widely distributed than it is now. But on May 1st, 1776, when the Illuminati was founded, everything changed. Since then, wealth has become increasingly consolidated into the hands of an increasingly smaller percentage of the human race. So let's consider how wealth is distributed around the world at the present time. Things are more extreme than what most Americans realize. According to Credit Suisse, a mere 0.7% of the world's population controls 41% of the world's wealth, while the poorest 68.7% of the world's population shares a mere 3% of the world's wealth. And this global trend is ongoing. The world is presently ruled by a global plutocracy. Our federal government in the U.S. has committed itself to globalism, and every time a politician uses the catchphrase, New World Order, he or she is pledging allegiance to globalism. So the wealthiest people in the world all believe in globalism. This globalism makes the wealthy wealthier and the poor poorer. The obvious truth is that the only way that this imbalance could exist is if something like the Illuminati did in fact exist. There is a unified collection of secret societies among the ultra-wealthy. These secret societies presently rule the world. This consolidation of wealth is deliberately created. So how do they do it? Well, let me explain. Let me tell you some things about wealth appropriation that were explained to me by Luciferians when I was young. If I had taken their advice and used these techniques, I would probably be a wealthy man today, which I am not. Nonetheless, I have known wealthy Luciferians, and this is what I've learned from them. People who have great wealth realize that knowledge is power, and they don't easily share their most important secrets. They are selfish, both with their money and with their knowledge. I've noticed over the years that when billionaires write books supposedly giving advice to the public on how to become wealthy, they never give you their real secrets. They never tell you how it's really done. But I'm going to tell you how the Illuminati really create their wealth. First off, know that the ultra-wealthy are not smarter than the rest of us, nor are they more hard-working. Those who inherit great wealth take it for granted and become decadent because of it. The average aristocrat is lazy and lacking innovation when compared to the average middle-class worker. But the Luciferian aristocrats know certain secrets, and they lack moral inhibition. That is how they acquire their great wealth. The most essential of these Illuminati secrets for wealth is something that was explained to me as the Judas principle. To Satanists, Judas Iscariot is a hero, not a villain. He taught Satanism through his example. The Judas principle is to first get other people to trust you, and when the time comes where there's money to be made in betraying that trust, you then betray them. This may sound simple, but it's the foundation of the wealth appropriation philosophy of the super wealthy. If you study the lives of people like J.P. Morgan, the Rothschilds, and the Rockefellers, you will find that they built their wealth by using betrayal. People like this get business partners to trust them, and then they betray that trust. They also work to create positive public reputations by appearing to be philanthropic, thus gaining public trust, and then they betray that public trust. If you do a deep analysis of the Great Depression, what you will find is that it was an engineered event. It did not come about through accident. The same men who created the Great Depression were publicly respected because of their so-called charity work, but all of that was merely PR. The wealthy men who engineered the collapse had already sold their stocks and were cash-heavy by the time that the planned stock market crash took place. Later, as recovery took place, they were able to buy up viable companies for pennies on the dollar. The real intention of these super wealthy people is always the Judas principle. There was a movie that came out recently titled The Social Network. It humorously depicts how Mark Zuckerberg betrays his friends on his way to becoming a billionaire. But at least in his case, there was also hard work and innovation involved with this. But if you think that his betrayal was just that of his friends and co-founders, think again. Consider the fact that Facebook is now an NSA front for spying on everyone who uses it. So this is really a betrayal of an entire society. And this is the secret to becoming a billionaire. You betray everyone. When I was young, it was explained to me how this Judas principle is supported with certain techniques, some of which were explained to me by members of Luciferian secret societies. For example, there are the ABCs of lying your way to wealth. These are as follows. A. Always tell the truth unless there is some substantial advantage to telling a lie. In this way, people will assume that you're honest. B. Only tell a lie when you know you won't be caught. C. Cash in on your reputation for being honest only when there is a substantial financial gain to be achieved. The Judas principle demonstrates how the Luciferians profit from being two-faced. Being two-faced is essential to the Illuminati business model. I remember when an older relative explained to me the basic business model of the Luciferian criminal. He said that the Luciferian businessman is both an honest businessman and a secret criminal at the same time. The full-time criminal can't justify his income to the IRS or the police, so he becomes a target for investigation. This is why full-time criminals rarely achieve wealth, and why they often wind up in prison. But the clever Luciferian has legitimate business concerns, and he can support those concerns in various ways through criminal actions. For example, when I was young, I knew a Luciferian woman who was an antique dealer. She had a friend and partner in crime who ran a lawn care business that targeted wealthy homeowners. The lawn care workers would scope out these homes for antiques. They would carefully plan out the theft of those homes and were selective in what they stole. Then this woman would ship these stolen goods to other states and sell them to upscale antique stores, thus fencing the stolen goods. However, this woman knew which wealthy persons had connection to the Luciferian secret societies and which wealthy persons did not. And so her partners never stole from any other wealthy Luciferians. This woman and her partners were never suspected by the police because they had legitimate businesses as a front for their criminal actions. But these people were small-time Luciferians. Nevertheless, this sort of thing is done today on a larger scale by international corporations. This is how drug smuggling, human trafficking, and money laundering is done on a huge scale. If you own stock in any large international corporation, you probably receive profits from some type of hidden criminal activity. The Illuminati business model of combining legitimate business enterprise with hidden criminal activity is just too profitable. The honest companies can't compete. And of course you're wondering why the law doesn't intervene, but of course the politicians are all paid off by Luciferian secret societies. Then there is the Luciferian art of gaining wealth through looting. Queen Elizabeth did this with privateers. These were really pirates that had been authorized by her to loot the ships of her enemies. These privateers agreed to give her half of all their plunder. So these so-called privateers, they raised all the money for the enterprise and took all the risks, but they had to share the profits. When Captain Drake returned to England in 1580 with his ship filled with pirate loot, The queen's half-share exceeded all her income for that year, but of course she tried to keep that fact a secret of the realm. So looting is the key to easy wealth. You might consider that such practices no longer take place, but consider what happened just a few years ago with the Enron scandal. Ken Lay got then Governor George W. Bush to sign the electric deregulation law in Texas. This made it possible for Enron executives to rip off millions. They shared the bounty of this rip-off by making huge donations to Bush's campaigns. What you have to realize is that modern American politicians consider the middle class to be their real enemy. This is what they really mean whenever they use the catchphrase, New World Order. And if you've paid attention, you know that all the politicians in Washington, D.C., Democrat or Republican, have sworn their loyalty to the Illuminati's New World Order. The politicians in Washington, D.C. authorize the looting of the middle class through deregulation. Then they receive kickbacks from the looters in the form of campaign donations and other favors. So you need to realize that the systematic destruction of the middle class is intentional. It's also worth noting that the Bush family is related to the present-day Queen of England, and this fact is relevant. The leaders of the Illuminati come from the same bloodlines and use the same methods of wealth appropriation, as did their ancestors. Another method of wealth appropriation is to sell money at an inflated price. Let's say you need 50 cents in coins to use a payphone, but you only have a dollar bill. If I would exchange 2 quarters for your dollar bill, I'd be selling you money at an inflated price. Remember the story of Jesus driving the money changers from the temple? Those money changers were selling money at an inflated price. In those days, worshippers were only allowed to make donations at the temple with a certain type of coin. The money changers created a scarcity of those coins and then sold those coins to worshippers at an inflated price. This is how the Federal Reserve works today. In spite of its name, the Federal Reserve isn't a part of the federal government. It's privately owned and it sells the American people money at an inflated price. It's a total ripoff, and the funniest thing is that the average American is still clueless. These crooked techniques of wealth appropriation are very old, but they're still being used. And as the saying goes, those who fail to learn from history are condemned to relive it. Now, it should occur to you that for any of these techniques to work, they require an absence of morality. There are various ways in which the super wealthy justify their deceptive, criminal, and immoral behavior. One popular attitude among the wealthiest 1% is that they all believe in some version of what was originally called social Darwinism. What social Darwinism does is to provide a pseudo-intellectual justification for the attitude that might makes right. They believe that the fact that they are wealthier than everyone else is proof of their genetic superiority. They suppose that they don't have to behave morally because they have superior breeding. The term social Darwinism has been rejected by academics, but these days it's rarely used. However, the ideas of social Darwinism have definitely found their way into various philosophies which are covertly supported by the Illuminati. You find the unspoken premise of social Darwinism justifying the ideas of Ayn Rand, Chicago School economics, and neocon pundits. And all of these social Darwinist philosophies encourage deregulation and privatization. And such practices allow wealthy Illuminati members to further loot the middle class. Furthermore, generationally wealthy aristocrats are often sent to boarding schools when they are young. This separation from a nurturing mother inhibits the psychological development of empathy for others. Thus it inhibits the development of a true sense of conscience. So the generationally wealthy are socialized to believe that it's actually good for them to exploit the poor and middle class. But it's also true that some of the generationally wealthy are Luciferians. I'm not saying that every person who inherits great wealth is in a secret society. But in one way or another, all members of the wealthiest 1% are connected to these Luciferian secret societies. Luciferians may be a minority among the wealthy class, but they are an influential minority. Most wealthy non-Luciferians have therefore adapted the attitudes of Luciferianism, whether they consciously realize this or not. Not all the wealthiest 1% are Luciferians, but some of them are. And the practices of Luciferianism are designed to deprogram Judaic-Christian morality. I remember my first exposure to satanic rituals when I was a child. I remember seeing adults in black robes ritualistically defacing copies of the Bible. Later on, I witnessed satanic rituals in which Satanists would chant verses from the Bible backwards. For example, God is love backwards is pronounced something like evil sea dog. I remember hearing them chanting this over and over. However, I was a great disappointment to my satanic trainers because I rejected their philosophy. If I had listened to what they were trying to teach me, I'm sure I'd be a wealthy man today. But I hated these satanic rituals. Sometimes they would chant verses from the Bible backwards for hours and go through periods of hysterical glee in doing this. Also, they would read books that gave intellectual justifications for rejecting Christianity. Books like Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche. But the deprogramming of Christian morality is only one way in which their philosophy helps them to appropriate wealth. Ritual magic is another technique that Luciferians use to help them to get more money. Luciferian was developed out of Hermetic teachings from the ancient world. Hermetic philosophy in itself is not Luciferianism. I would say that Luciferianism is a distortion or perversion of these Hermetic teachings. These teachings are derived from pre-Christian sources concerning alchemy, astrology, and ceremonial rituals. The original Hermetic teachings don't necessarily promote demonism, but over time some Hermetic ideas have been twisted into a form of demonism. A ritual is a sequence of actions involving gestures, words, and objects, and this is performed in a sanctified space. The purpose of a ritual is to create a union between a human being and an invisible spiritual being. In the Christian communion ritual, that union is between faithful persons and God. But in Luciferian ritual magic, the union is intended to be with ancient gods or even demons. And the idea is that these demons can be summoned to help them become more wealthy. Luciferians use ritual magic to make psychic attacks against other persons. But you can shield yourself from psychic attacks by using ordinary prayer. I would suggest that you not discount all ideas which arise from Hermetic teachings. Advanced physics recognizes quantum non-locality, which can explain how seemingly magical effects can take place over a distance. Ancient Hermetic ceremonial rituals may have utilized this principle of quantum non-locality. Remote viewing and remote healing are modern practices studied by contemporary scientists. Some early Luciferians were alchemists who were a type of proto-scientists. The natural philosopher Isaac Newton was one of these. And these alchemists were really heretical Christians rather than Satanists. But they had to keep their studies secret and pass on their knowledge in secret. Hence, they meet the broadest definition of the word Luciferianism, because Luciferianism is a secret religion, a secret philosophy. Although the teachings of Jesus Christ were intended only to promote love and tolerance, the medieval Christian church distorted those teachings, and it became very intolerant and cruel. The early Luciferians formed secret societies because they didn't want to be persecuted by the intolerant medieval Christian church. It was also this intolerant church that burnt innocent women at the stake as witches. This medieval church also destroyed the innocent Cathars in southern France, as well as the less innocent Templar Knights. And the survivors of all this religious oppression formed secret societies. The Freemasons arose based on some knowledge from these secret societies. Many of the patriotic founders of the United States were Freemasons. For many Freemasons, even today, Lucifer is a symbol of enlightenment. In a positive sense, Lucifer brings forth hidden knowledge to the world. The Statue of Liberty was designed and built by Freemasons. However, in a negative sense, Lucifer is the bringer of occult knowledge to an elite few. And these elite Illuminati members abuse occult rituals to make themselves wealthy at the expense of others. Some contemporary Luciferians use ritual magic to summon demons to help them to obtain greater wealth. In Solomonic-type ritual magic, the Luciferians protect themselves while at the same time commanding a demon so that they don't become demon-possessed by the demon they're commanding. However, in hardcore satanic ritual magic, the practitioner actually seeks to become demon-possessed. Whether or not you believe that demons are real entities or merely psychological symbols for repressed negative emotions, demonism is real, and these demons are cruel taskmasters. In hardcore Satanism, there is drug use, sadism, sexual abuse, animal sacrifice, and even human sacrifice. Not all Satanists indulge in such practices, but some do. And most people would be shocked if they knew how widespread Satanism really is. Satanic ritual abuse can be used to create mind-control slaves. The blood rituals, torture, and drugs can be used for the purpose of trauma-based mind control. Once they have a mind-controlled slave, they can use that person for whatever they want to use that person for. They can use that person for sex, assassination, or wealth appropriation. Some ultra-wealthy Satanists brainwash their corporate employees with trauma-based mind control so that such employees will be loyal. Also, members in a Luciferian secret society can use their position in that secret society to acquire wealth through varying means. And since many of the wealthiest people in the world are Luciferians and have contact with other wealthy persons, by joining a Luciferian secret society, you can become wealthy yourself. However, there are certain rules that all secret societies operate on. First, the invisibility of the group must be maintained. For some groups, this means absolute secrecy. Their members are expected to suppress all public knowledge of their group. Second, the members must never reveal to anyone outside the group that they are in that group. Third, all such groups have a hierarchy, and their members must obey orders given by superiors. no matter what those orders are. Fourth, there must not be any division within the group. Members must not fight with one another. Fifth, a member must not harm any other members. However, it is all right for members to harm any person not in the group. Sixth, a member must be completely honest when communicating to the group's leadership. In spite of such restrictive rules, people still join such groups because there are rewards in doing so. Usually the hope of financial reward is a big motivator. But whenever a rule is broken, the punishment is severe. An initiated member who breaks the rules may be tortured or even killed, and his loved ones may be harmed if he breaks the rules. And once you are in the secret society, you can never leave. Like the sign says over the gate to hell, let all who enter here give up all hope. Although the Illuminati do have great wealth, I don't think that they're actually happy. I think that they're morbid sociopaths. Personally, as a Christian, I think it's a bad idea to acquire wealth in the way that the Illuminati members do. I'm not encouraging anyone to join the Illuminati. Even though I'm not wealthy, I'm glad I'm not a materialistic Satanist. As the Bible asks, how shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? There is no reason to feel any respect for the wealthiest 1% of society. They're not better than the rest of us. Ordinary people of good heart are the most important people in the world. The wealthy Satanists are like foolish little children who are helpless to stop their own cruelty and greed. It will be the kindness of ordinary people. This is what's going to help the human race to survive this economic tribulation which the wealthy Luciferians are imposing upon the rest of us. In the end, God will have the final say. God loves all persons of good heart, and having a good heart is the greatest wealth you can have. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you.